My buddy Phil is a great guy, really. He's the kind of guy who would give you the shirt off his back, even if it meant he'd be cold. But ask him to tie his shoelaces, and you'll see a different side of him. He'll be staring blankly, as if you just asked him to solve a complex math problem. It's like you just asked him to explain quantum physics or something equally baffling. So naturally, when he bought a boat, a rickety thing he proudly christened the Unsinkable 2. I shudder to think what happened to the first one. We were concerned, very concerned. Phil, oblivious to our apprehension, was ecstatic. He couldn't wait to show off his new purchase. He strutted around in a captain's hat, 2 sizes too small, looking like a kid playing dress-up. His chest puffed out like a pigeon at a breadcrumb convention, full of pride and excitement. "Ahoy, mateys!" he boomed, his voice dripping with faux nautical nonsense, as if he were a seasoned sailor. "Prepare to embark on a voyage of epic proportions," he declared, his enthusiasm infectious. We piled into the boat, a motley crew of skeptical friends and one very confused dachshund named Kevin, who had no idea what was happening. Phil, after much fanfare and several failed attempts, managed to start the engine. It was a struggle, but he did it. The engine sputtered, coughed, and belched out a plume of black smoke that would make a diesel truck blush. It was not a good sign. With a lurch that nearly sent Kevin flying overboard, we were off. The adventure had begun. "Adventure awaits!" Phil bellowed over the din, a manic grin plastered across his face. He was in his element. Oh boy, we thought, adventure indeed. We could only hope it wouldn't be our last. The first sign that our voyage wouldn't be winning any maritime awards came when Phil attempted to steer us out of the harbor. His confidence was high, but his skills were, let's say, questionable at best. Let's just say his concept of port and starboard was flexible. He seemed to think they were interchangeable, which led to some rather interesting maneuvers. We zigged when we should have zagged, narrowly avoiding a collision with a flock of startled ducks. Their quacking was almost as loud as our laughter, and then there was the very large, very unimpressed-looking swan. It gave us a glare that could curdle milk. Then there was the incident with the fishing net. It was supposed to be a simple task, but nothing is ever simple with Phil. Suffice it to say, it involved a lot of shouting, a pair of rusty pliers, and a few choice words that aren't suitable for polite company. Phil somehow managed to get tangled up like a fly in a spider web. It was a sight to behold. It took the combined effort of the entire crew, Kevin included, bless his little cotton socks, to untangle him. We were all in stitches by the end of it. By midday, the sun was beating down, our throats were parched, and we were pretty sure we'd drifted further out to sea than initially planned. Phil, however, remained undeterred. His enthusiasm was both admirable and slightly concerning. He was on a roll, regaling us with tales of his completely fabricated nautical prowess. Each story was more outlandish than the last, but we let him have his moment. "Mayday, we're sinking, or are we?" Just when we thought things couldn't get any more ridiculous, the boat started taking on water. Not a lot, mind you, but enough to cause a mild panic. "We're sinking! We're sinking!" shrieked Susan, her face as white as a sheet. Phil, bless his clueless heart, remained calm. "Nonsense, my dear Susan," he said with a wave of his hand. "This is perfectly normal. It's called, buoyancy control." He then proceeded to grab an empty bucket and toss it overboard, as if that would magically solve the problem. Turns out the drain plug was missing, a minor detail that Phil, in his infinite wisdom, had overlooked. Luckily, we found a spare life jacket, don't ask, that fit snugly into the hole. Crisis averted, albeit in the most unconventional way possible. The Unexpected Stowaway. As the sun began its descent, casting long shadows across the water, we finally convinced Phil to head back to shore. The golden hues of the sunset painted a serene picture, but our minds were anything but calm. Exhausted, sunburnt, and still slightly traumatized by the day's events, we were more than ready for solid ground. The day's adventures had taken a toll on us, and the thought of a warm meal and a comfortable bed was all we could think about. But fate, it seemed, had other plans. As we were nearing the harbor, we heard a strange rustling sound coming from the cabin below. It was an odd noise, one that didn't belong on a boat that had been out at sea all day. "Did you guys pack snacks?" asked Steve, ever hopeful. His question, though innocent, added to the growing sense of unease among us. We exchanged nervous glances. None of us had. The realization that something unexpected was on board began to sink in. Cautiously, Phil crept down the stairs, his every move punctuated by the sound of his own heartbeat. The tension was palpable as we waited in silence, each second feeling like an eternity. A moment later, he emerged, a sheepish grin on his face. We all held our breath, waiting for an explanation. "Meet our new first mate," he announced, holding up a very large, very disgruntled-looking Maine Coon cat. The sight of the enormous feline left us both amused and bewildered. Apparently, our furry friend had decided to join us for a little impromptu boating adventure. It seemed the cat had found a cozy spot to hide away during our trip. How he got on board, we'll never know. The mystery of our unexpected stowaway would remain unsolved, but it certainly added an unforgettable twist to our day. Epilogue. Adventure awaits online. So, what did we learn from our epic boating adventure with Captain Clueless? Always check the drain plug. Never underestimate the ingenuity of a Maine Coon. And most importantly, sometimes the greatest adventures are the ones that don't go according to plan. Want to see the whole hilarious disaster unfold? Check out the video on my new YouTube channel, Adventures with Captain Clueless. Subscribe for more laughs, mishaps, and unexpected encounters with the animal kingdom. You won't regret it, probably.